Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this video. My name is Kosh Hasratwal. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and here I have with me is Mr. Allan Jefferson. Now, most of you probably won't know who Allan Jefferson is, but he is a guy I've known for probably 10 years. We both live in Townsville, and the reason we are wearing theatre clothes or surgical theatre clothes is because Elle and I both work in a hospital. I'm a surgeon, and Elle is a representative for an orthopedic company that provides hip and knee replacements to orthopedic surgeons, and Elle is one of my reps. They call it in the industry. So you guys are wondering why am I having a chat with a rep? And those of you who already know what Elle has just achieved in the last 2 weeks ago,
two weeks ago today.
2 weeks ago today. So there's a race in America called the Race Across America. As the name suggests, it's trying to get from one end of America to the other end. Now, this race is not a motorbike race, not a car race, but it's a bicycle race. So what essentially it is that you start riding your bicycle from the west coast of America to the east coast of America. It's approximately just under 5,000 kilometers, and it's 55,000 meters of ascent or climb. So to put it in a sort of a more palatable format, it's about 6 Mount Everest worth of climb, and you are passing through 12 American states. So Al Jefferson just did that race 2 weeks ago, and he came first. He won the race. So you can imagine a man from Townsville who normal bloke, we all know him as Jeffer, and he just won this race. So I'm here interviewing Jeffer to tell us, what drives a man to be able to do this sort of stuff. So just to give you a bit of a background on Elle didn't start riding yesterday. Elle has done 18 full Ironmans, and he has qualified for Kona, which is the World Championships of triathlon, 8 times. He's won his age group in the not the World Championship, but in just in Australia. So he just didn't pick up the bike and thought he was going to go across a race across America. But just to give you an appreciation that this guy has 2 jobs. One is what I just told you, and the other is that he is a crew member of a helicopter retrieval team, medical retrieval team. And his crew chief is his boss. Greg is his boss at the helicopter base. So I'm just going to ask Elle a question. We're just going to have a conversation so you all can listen, because I'm as curious as you all are as to how can someone do this and what does it take. So Elle, first question, tell us a bit about the race and tell us some of the parameters or the laws or rules that govern the race.
So pretty much it's known as the world's toughest bike race, and it's a single stage time trial. So you get to the start line and the clock starts, and you've got 12 days to get across to complete the nearly 5,000 k across the country, and get a recognised finish at the other end. There are various approaches that people take. Some people sleep absolute minimal, others will set up a regime, and it's whether you want to compete or complete the race.
So that's very interesting you say that, because I've known Elle for 10 years. And when I first asked him, I said, let's go back to the history of this race. Elle tells me that he first got introduced to this race in 2014?
2014.
So can you tell us a bit about what happened in 2014?
So in 2014, I was actually in Cairns getting ready for the Cairns Ironman, and a very good friend of mine, Adam Carmichael, who and I had just been out for a swim, and he was telling me about this event that he was actually doing the following year, and it involved riding his bike across America. And I guess for me that just absolutely pricked my interest, because it's actually something it's out there, it's extreme, and it's something a little bit different that I thought, how do I get involved in this? And I picked his brains, and I really wanted to actually be involved as one of the riders, but they already had their team of 4 riders. So the next step was actually to be a crew member. So in 2015, I went across and was a crew member for what was known as Team Shiv. Back then we had Team Shiv and Team Shiv and Team Ven, so there was two teams from Australia.
From a specialised sponsorship, I assume.
No, I think they just had Shivs and Venges.
Okay, right.
Which are models of bicycles.
Yeah, model of bicycles. Specialised.
So yeah, I actually got to experience RAAM from a crew perspective, and as a crew member in a 4-person team, you work exceedingly hard. There's lots of bike changes, lots of looking after crew, lots of trying to sleep in the back of RVs and sleep in cars, and that was where I actually managed to see the first of my introduction, I guess, to the solo riders.
So and this is 2014, and then you went back. So this can be done in teams and as a solo. You were about to talk about the solo riders.
Yeah.
But you actually also took part in an actual team race.
Yeah. So I went back in 2000. I was crewed in 2015, and then 2 members from the 2015 team, we joined together and with another rider, Wes from Singapore, and we raced a 4-person team in 2017.
Right.
And again, it's a good stepping stone to learning how to ride this thing all by yourself. Teams is an entirely different dynamic versus solo, but it gives you insight into riding your bike day after day, night and day, no rest, no recovery. You just got to keep on plugging away. So it was just one of the stepping stones to.
And then, if I recollect, you came second in.
Our team came second.
And that's a 4-man team, but you can also do it as an 8-man team, and isn't it?
You can do an 8-person team, a 4-person, or a 2-person.
And how many days was that?
That took us 6 days. I think 6 days, 13 hours. I think from the top of my head.
Right, and then you thought, well, that's not enough.
Pretty much.
And then you thought, well, you got this envy thing happening, and you wanted to do it yourself. I said you wanted to conquer the cycling world. Was that something went through your mind?
No, it was just more of wanting to go out and test myself, I guess, to see what I was actually capable of. And it's not like it's the first or anything like that. There are people finish this race and they finish it every year, so it's not impossible.
Actually, while you're talking about people finishing this race, can you give us a bit of a stats on this race and how many people have done it, how many have finished it? Because you told me that the other day, and I was pretty astonished.
So this race has been going. This is the 40th or 41st year it's been running, and I believe there have only ever been 330 something people that have actually finished this race.
So in 40 years, 300 people have finished it.
More people have actually climbed Everest than actually have finished this race.
So just to put it in perspective, I read somewhere that this race is probably as difficult as climbing Mount Everest without oxygen. So again, put that in perspective. But I mean, this is also the fact that he's climbed 6 Everests in 10 days without sleep. So, it mind boggles, and hence I'm having a chat to him because I want to know, and I think you guys want to know. So some of the probing questions, there's 2 aspects, things I want to cover. The first thing is you physically, how you did it. And the second, one of the important aspects of this race is the uncommercialization of this organization. Where what I mean by that is, you did this race, which probably is one of the hardest things in the world most people can do. Probably what would you say?
It's up there.
It's up there. There's not much more. Like Tour de France, people say, "Oh wow, these guys are so fit," but they ride 200 kilometers and they have a whole day of rest. And some of them are on blood doping.
They get to sleep in the bed.
They get to sleep in the bed, and they also got supplements. And I'm sure. I'm not sure. I know Elle hasn't had any supplements because they would test you.
There is testing out there, but it's all done naturally.
It's all done naturally. Okay. So let's talk about your physical. So just to say, he did this race in 10 days and
15 hours.
15 hours.
Sorry, 15 minutes.
So 10 days and 15 minutes. The course record is?
7 days, 15 hours.
So let's just go back very quickly. So there's a guy from Austria called?
Christoph Strasser.
Christoph Strasser. Christoph Strasser has done this race?
That's a good question. He's won it 6 times.
6 times.
I believe he started 8.
Okay, so he done 8, 1, 6. So this guy obviously is a legend of this sport.
Legend in his own right, absolutely.
And how old would he be now?
Oh, he must be late 30s. I would.
So he's not.
He's not super.
He's not a 54-year-old.
No, he's not a 54-year-old.
With a grey beard.
He thinks he's 26.
He thinks he's 26. Okay, so El, I'm just gonna go back to so the course record is 6 days and something, and that guy did it in his 20s. So but he's El, he's 54, and he's obviously trying to do something that at 54, like I'm 52, and when I look at a gym session and I go, oh well, I couldn't be bothered. I think I'm 54. I've got an excuse for not to push 80 kilos. I'll just do 40 today. But that's just me, weak. And so this guy's on a totally different level. So now, El, when you decided you were going to do it, tell us about your training and what you thought. And before we go into that, 2019, what happened then?
So, 2019, I started the solo race. Went into it, I guess, pretty confident in my ability. And we're done. I trained myself, so it was a little bit of an experiment, I guess. And hindsight would show that I actually did way too much, and that didn't play its hand until about day 2 of the race when I was really struggling to breathe, and I got crook and all that sort of stuff. So 2019, I started and only got about less than a third of the way across to a place called Cortez,
which is in the Alps.
It's in the Rockies. Yep,
Rockies,
it's basically it's at the base of the Rockies. So I basically come home in 2019 with my tail between my legs, and a few ideas and learnings from that year, with the intention of going back in 2020 and redeeming myself and having a slightly different strategy. But as we know, 2020 came and went, and so did 2021. So I've had a lot of time to.
There's a small virus that.
There was just a small pandemic going around the world that everybody had to deal with.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of time to think about what we were going to do when we went back, or when we eventually got back, and how I was going to put what I learned from 2019 into practice.
Okay, so now this is probably about 2021, beginning of 2021, and now you're ramping your training up. I remember I did one I did one training ride with him, and he was doing a 4-day straight without sleep, and I joined him for 12 hours or something like that.
We did 12 hours.
We did 12 hours together, and I tell you what, at the end of the 12 hours, I was going to kill someone. And I had 2 other mates that were doing it with us. So myself, 2 other mates, and L's fresh as day. So this is we started at 5 in the morning. We finished 250 kilometers we'd done in the 12 hours, and myself, the other 2 mates finished. And L that night went up to Mount Fox, which is Mount Fox. Tell us a bit about what that day was raining. It was pissing down. It was pouring down, and that was day 3 into the 4-day range. And I can tell you, I'm no athlete, but I do ride bicycles. And after the 12-hour ride, I could tell you, I felt like I had done probably the 10 days that he just come off. But he went off and did another 2,000 kilometers after that to finish that 4
days off.
4 days without any sleep.
Yeah, and that was practicing that sleep deprivation, which in hindsight, it doesn't really make a lot of difference.
No.
You just get tired.
Yeah. But interesting what El also said, when you ask him for advice if you're ever doing endurance stuff, and he said, if you are aiming for a race, you don't have to run or ride the race. before you do the race. You only have to do it once.
Yeah.
Tell us about that concept.
Yeah, so that was like, it's like if someone wants to go and run a marathon, you know, and you've never run a marathon before, you don't need to go and run a marathon on training to prove that you can actually run a marathon, because you'll do all that on race day.
Keep it for the race day.
Keep it for the race day, and it's probably something that I didn't really do leading up into 2019, as I actually did way too much, and not realizing the effect it was going to have on me and how my recovery how long my recovery was going to take. I didn't give it due credit.
From what I understand, Elle developed pneumonia, and you ended up in a hospital. And if you're off the bike for more than 24 hours, then you got a DNF, and he was disqualified. He couldn't get on the bike, so there's not enough time to recover. So Elle, now let's say 2019, you come back home. You'd raised a lot of money to the 2019. Tell us about the money that's required and how that all plays into achieving. Well, it's a goal, but it's not a financial goal.
Not a financial goal. So it's obviously the race across America is in America, and coming from Australia, it's not a cheap thing to do. One of the reasons I work 2 jobs. It actually helps pay for it. And we did have sponsors and such forth, and we were raising money for a little bit of money for Beyond Blue, which was at the time looking into mental health and suicide prevention with emergency service workers, which was something dear to my heart. So when I failed in 2019, we obviously had some money left over.
So how much did you raise in 2019 to the race?
I couldn't tell you off the top
but
of my
you
head.
raised 85,000 for this one.
Our budget for this year was $85,000.
Yes, and because of the costs of everything.
Costs of everything, and like compared to 2019 versus this year, like costs have gone up so much. You know, rental cars that we were paying $1,500 US for, you know, we were paying in excess of $6,500.
Yes.
And you think, Jesus, $85,000, that's a lot. It is. It's a lot of money.
I know. And so it's really good that you got a massive paycheck when you finished the race. And then they gave you this trophy and a massive check that says, Elle, you are the toughest MF in the world, and here's $1 million. Is that right?
Got the trophy.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get the $1 million.
Fellas, let me clarify this. You know, this guy has done something that is exceptional. However, zero prize money. Some rich kid from wherever hits a white ball, some faraway place with some stick that's ill-formed for that purpose, puts it in a hole that's probably about 200 yards away, and gets $5.2 million for a weekend's work. You know what? Something's not right, and I'm gonna ask Elle, what do you say to that? Not that you did it for money, but I'm sure there's a part of you that says this race can be commercialized.
Yeah, look, everyone goes into it knowing there's no prize money.
Yeah.
And literally, all you're riding for is bragging rights, pretty much. But I believe...
So there's no commercial media, right?
Like mainstream media don't really... You know, we were fortunate here in Townsville that there was an amazing amount of support, which absolutely blew my mind. But trying to get mainstream media involved is very, very difficult. It's not something that's...
So why?
Good question. You know, Kyrgios freaking throws his racket on the ground and it's front page news the next day, you know. I go and do something like this and it did make a couple of pages, I'll give it that much, but it was like page 5 or something like that. But it never, it was one of those things. But I do believe ultra cycling is a very, very niche sport, and there's not a lot of people do it around the world.
No.
But I believe.
But this
day and age now, I think there's a possibility that they could actually, condense everything down and make it TV
friendly.
Somehow make it TV friendly. You know, you're not going to follow my little scrawny bum across the country for 10 days.
Well, you know what? You would be surprised, Al, because every morning I'd wake up and the first thing I would check would be the news or some emails, but the next thing I would check would be, where's Al?
Where's the tracker?
And what I was, I don't know, the viewers watching this, I'm thinking, I want to see some footage. I want to see, you know, how is this guy going? And occasionally your crew would put something up, you know.
Via social media.
By social media, mainly Facebook, and we'd follow that.
Yeah.
But there was no way of seeing you on the road. There was a couple of shots by the RAAM.
RAAM Media.
RAAM Media, and they had some couple of drones.
Drone stuff. We had a couple of drones ourselves.
But I can tell you, or maybe I'm going off a tangent here. They were very, very not pro Team Jefferson. Everything was that Nicole and the Stavak dude, the Czech dude, and you were on their thing once.
Yeah.
Once, and I thought, you know, this guy is now gonna come first, and even now, I think there's not enough coverage for a guy who won it, and there's more coverage of guys who came 8th or 9th, and so why? What? Because you didn't come there to win, and you won.
I have a face for radio.
No, I don't know. I don't know. That's true. But but anyways, from my viewers as well, we would love to have seen more of the race. Now, you're right. We can't follow you for 10 hours a day, and that is 10 days straight. You know, like 24 hours a day. But there has to be some way of having coverage and making it more commercial.
Yeah, I think it's just somebody to come in with, you know, even, you know, like this like Survivor and all that sort of stuff, which goes for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it manages to create this environment. Creates a story that, you know, that people get glued to somehow. And the interesting thing this year is versus other years, when particularly like if Christoph Strauss has been racing, it's been a one-horse race.
Right.
Strausser has been off the front. He's days in front of the next competitor. So from a story side, it's not very exciting.
Right.
You're probably, it's the minor placings and the guys at the back who are struggling to make cutoffs. That's the interesting part of it. Whereas this year...
Well, hold on. Nicole was 300 miles ahead of you.
200 miles, yeah.
200. Well, what's amongst friends? So Nicole Reese.
Nicole Reese, yes.
Nicole Reese is from Switzerland.
She's Swiss Miss.
And she's a tiny little thing. And the race started, and as I was following it, and within like day 2, she's got a 100-mile gap, and day 3 or day 4, she's got a 200-mile gap. You were coming second. No, you were coming third, and then you started coming second. Would that be correct? Or you were always coming second?
I didn't know.
Well, I think you were coming third, and then you took past Stavak, the Czech guy.
Yeah, so the Czech guy and I were going
backwards and forward. But then you put the distance on him. But then you know, she was 200 miles ahead at one point, and then I went to bed, and then wake up next morning, and I get these text messages. Elf's leading the race. The mongrel is leading the race. I'm like, what the hell happened, you know? But again, so I tried to find out what had happened. How did El come up? But the only way you could find out was on Nicole Reese team Facebook page. They had posted she's fallen over. Yeah. So tell us about that part. About how did you know that you were 200 miles behind and she had fallen over?
No. So I had instructed the crew not to tell me where I was in relation to everybody else, because I just wanted to concentrate. And it was one of those things I guess I learned from 2019. I got involved in other people's races versus my own. So I thought, right, if I don't know where anyone is, I don't need to worry about them. So that's what I did. But after a period of time, and it's something that I guess picked up from, you know, like from my Ironman days, is an empty road is just boring. I like to have something. I like to have a rabbit up the road that I can chase. And,
okay, so tell me. So now you don't know that Nicole has fallen over and is off the bike.
Well, I did. Yeah, she fell off a bit later on, but I didn't know that I didn't know where she was, and I didn't know where anybody was.
Yes, I saw one one video of you that Greg and Karina took, and they put it on. You were having this drink and saying, "This is steak and chips. This is awesome steak and chips." And your eyes were popping up at the time. But now, what I want to ask is, when you went past Nicole, did you acknowledge she was there?
The first time I went past Nicole, I didn't know she was there.
Oh.
So she had basically just fallen off.
Right.
And she...
But 200-mile gap, you can't just...
So if we go back to the 200-mile gap, literally I stopped in the middle of the road one night going, and Greg actually got out and he said, "What's going on?" I go, "Well, just trying to figure stuff out here." Because I had a lot of time to figure stuff out, because sitting out there on your own, you got a lot of time to think. I'm going, where is everybody? There should be, there was like 30 plus riders that have started. I can't be that far back. I can't be that far back that they are so far in front of me.
Oh, so you thought the opposite?
I thought the opposite, because I hadn't seen anybody. So Greg said to me, he said, "Look, do you really want to know?" And I go, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "All right." And he looked behind him, and he goes, "Generally, most of the people are more than 200 miles behind you." He said, "There's one person in front of you, and she is nearly 200 miles ahead of you." And
this is day?
I think day 7.
Okay, so 3 more days to go.
I think day 7. Anyway, and I just sort of absorbed that for a while, got back on the bike and just chuffed off. And I didn't know this, but the crew were watching me intently. And Greg says, "You watch this." And he actually talked to Priscilla and Rebecca, who were in the car, and he goes, "You watch this." And then literally I must have come back to him at some point
on
our little comms thing. And I said, "How far in front is she?" And he lied to me. She was just under 200, and he told me she was like 170 or something. Anyway, I'm not going to quibble over that. And then I said, "How far have we got to go?" Because I didn't know, and I can't remember what he said. And I again went off here and went quiet, and I absorbed that and did some thinking and thought.
In the middle of the night or daytime?
Yeah, no, it was middle of the night.
Yeah.
It was middle of the night. I thought, it's possible. It is possible to catch her. And then literally I pretty much battened down the hatches for about 12 hours, and I just, I'd been sitting on 16, 17, 18 mile an hour.
Kilometers for...
Yeah, which is, about
25,
27k an hour, just tapping on the pedals. And then for about 12 hours, I racked it up to about 33, 34. And just...
So, fellas, just to give an idea, so 33, 34 on the flat would require approximately 230, 240 kilowatts of power.
Roughly about that.
About that, probably a bit more, maybe 250,
something like that.
250. So average rider FTP, which is functional threshold, FTP functional threshold power, would be sitting around 170, 180. This is a good average rider, and then everyday rider, would be around the 50, 60 kilowatt FTP. FTP is your maximum effort for 20 minutes. So he's sitting for 12 hours at 250 watts. Just think about it, and we'll carry on talking now.
And I put a lot of work in and thought, well, maybe I can see if I can close the gap. And so literally that's what I did, and that became. So
you actually closed the gap before she fell off?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we got to we were within 10 miles of her.
Before she fell off?
Before she fell off the first time. And again, I was looking for her follow vehicle, looking for the lights. That was just something that I focused on. But little did we know, and so we found out, it was only that Claire happened to be looking out to the left, and she saw their support vehicles and their RV, and then carrying somebody who we just assumed was Nicole. because the tracker had said we'd gone past them.
Right.
So I never actually saw Nicole.
Right. But then you went past her and then she went past you again.
Yeah, so we went past. They obviously got her sorted out.
So she was off the bike for 4 hours.
Yeah. Again,
so
I don't,
apparently she's off the bike for 4 hours. So you must have had a bit of a lead in that.
We obviously had a bit of a lead in this, and it's where I went past. There's a couple of little tricky climbs. There's some nuggety little climbs, and again, it's at the back end of the race. So you sort of, and I'd obviously done a reasonable effort to get to that point, so I had to pay for that somewhere. So
because so now you've gone past her, she goes past you
while I was asleep.
Oh,
they put me down. They put me down for a sleep. Yeah. So we literally got home. All I remember is there was a lake. There was a lake, and I know they went swim. I know some of the crew went swimming in the lake, and they thought it was just lovely. Anyway, they put me down for a sleep there, and then got me up and got me moving, and I was very, very dodgy getting going. I was just...
How long did you sleep for?
Well, it was actually supposed to be a long sleep, but I think they woke me up just on the hour.
Right. Did you find it easy to fall asleep? Just boom?
Yeah.
When you woke up, how'd you feel?
I would generally, from a long, even like a 10 or a 20-minute nap, I'd usually wake myself up. Or it even like if I did a sleep cycle, which for me is about...
This is in training, you mean?
Yeah, no, this is actually during the race. Okay. For me, and I had done a little bit of this checking, monitoring when I was... So a sleep cycle for me was about an hour 10, an hour 15. And I would often be awake when they come to get me. Okay. I would just be sitting there with my eyes closed going,
I don't want to go.
Don't touch me. But yeah, they would just shake your foot and I would be awake. But on this occasion, they actually woke me from a deep sleep and I was very, very groggy. The eyes were open. There was nothing going on.
Wow.
But just get on your bike and ride, Al.
So then you knew she was ahead of you.
I knew she was.
But you knew she was hurting because
we knew she'd fallen off, and but we didn't know to what extent, how, what injuries or what an effect it had on her. So we just had to keep pushing on, and again, still doing our own race, but conscious of where she was and also where the Czech guy was behind us, just making sure we still, I guess, we're making a race out of it, but again.
Now the complete C is changed to compete.
Complete, yeah.
Changed to complete.
Changed to complete.
So just we've got 15 minutes left because I don't want to make it too long. So now let's talk about the last stretch where you went past Nicole. Did you see her? And did you go past her?
So I did actually get to see her, and so my crew, I think we did a crew swap, and from memory we had I think it was 15 miles. She was 15 miles in front, and I'd set, and I think we had there was 180 miles left at that point. So in my head I'm going, yep, cool, we've still got time, but I really wanted to shut that gap down as fast as I could, and it was beautiful countryside. It was just this rolling. It was bushy. It was green. It was
it wasn't a climb.
There were climbs, but they weren't crazy.
Like a ravens would climb.
Huh?
Like the ravens would climb.
But no, the undulations.
Inside joke.
It was, and they weren't bad. But I was on my John, and it just felt. I felt my legs felt good, and I felt good, and I had some good food. And
okay, so then you got to the end. I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to come back to the front, just because I want to know how you dealt with your bum. So
all right.
But let's go to the end first. So now you've got 10 days and 15 minutes. You in, and all of a sudden you come through this rubber arch.
This rubber arch.
And there's a few people going,
yay.
yeah, this guy here looks a bit tired. He's probably ridden a bit. There are a few people there who understand what the Race Across America was, but it was near, it was in Annapolis, and it was
City Dock.
City Dock, you know, so it was like there's people, yachties and having coffee and holiday makers, and so there wasn't this big crowd, no media, no nothing. And if you're interested, you would have seen the footage, and I'll try and get them some footage and put it up here so somewhere on the screen. But then Al comes in, gets up the bike, you know, happy. Everyone gives him a hug, and then George, the MC for the evening, he's calling his name out. And tell us what happened there. You decided, you have to go and get your trophy, you know.
So yeah, George, we got there, done all the photos, the finish line photos, and then there's the obligatory post-race interview, which you do with George Thomas, and I've known George for a long time. So I get up on stage, and because I'm a little tired and my judgment is slightly off, he was supposed to pick me up. But I misread the memo, and I tried to pick him up, and I was super confident that this was going to be a walk in the park. Anyway.
This guy's about 80, 90 kilos.
Yeah. I got him about 6 inches off the ground and thought, this is just going sideways really badly.
I'm going to try and put the video clip in this corner here so that you guys can watch it when I do the editing.
But we both end up on the ground in fits of laughter, and we pick ourselves up. And then we.
So there was a memo that went out that said that he's going to pick you up.
Well, we'd had an agreement.
Okay.
So in 2009, going back a step, in 2019, he actually got me up on stage when we got to the finish line, and we had a bit of a chat about what happened in Cortez and such forth, and what I was going to do and all that sort of thing. And we'd actually talked about it then, that yes, he was going to pick me up. When I cross the finish line, he's going to pick me up.
But you forgot about that.
But I completely forgot that bit. And anyway, I thought I'll pick him up instead. But.
Okay, so basically it was funny to watch, you know, and on the Race Across America Facebook page saying, El misread the memo, you know, and there was this clip that was in there, so I'm going to put the clip up if you want to watch. But now go back to the starting line. Now you have to go through 12 states,
yes,
55,000 meter climb. Now, how does one prepare their bum for this?
It's difficult. So I'm running these seats, which people look at them and go, what the hell are they? And these infinity saddles, and they're super comfy. But everybody struggles with their butt at some point in the beginning, and it's either saddle sores or boils, which I didn't have, but I just had these pressure sores or pressure areas, and the skin just got really, really inflamed and even more angry, and it just to the point where I think must have been like day 7. I think it was when it was really, and it had been building for a couple of days, and to the point where I just really wanted to tell any crew member that would listen that my bum really was sore, and we needed to do something about it, and to the point where it was actually debilitating, and I actually couldn't push, and as much as I tried to block that pain, I can ride all day with a friggin' stone in my shoe. That's nothing. But this is it's like a red hot poker, just constantly. And so one of their crew, Priscilla, she found this lignocaine gel, which is like
from a pharmacy.
And like 4% lignocaine gel, and then we came up with a protocol that putting this stuff on my butt, which would just absolutely numb it, some Panadol, some Nurofen, and we managed to keep this under control, which allowed me to continue on.
Your crew didn't know what they signed up for. Looking at
when they ticked the boxes and said it was all inclusive, they didn't realise how all inclusive it was.
So okay. Now I do ride a bit of bicycle, and you know the 12-hour ride, my bum was absolutely knackered, and it's a 10 days different story. Now legs. How did you manage the legs?
The legs, actually, I was very, very lucky. I got to, I think it was about at least day 8. And up until that point, so even going back to 2019, I got this edema. So I had lots of this fluid, and it looked like I'd put on 15 kilos, and it was just all this extracellular fluid. I didn't get any of that this year.
So you said until the place called Trinidad, that's where all the elevations are.
So once you get through Trinidad,
Yeah.
all the high stuff has gone in, and even to then, I actually.
So how far is Trinidad from the beginning point?
Trinidad is about just over a third of the way.
Third of the way. Okay, so it's early on in the ride.
It's early on the ride, but my legs felt, for the majority of it, absolutely bulletproof. I could not break them.
Wow.
The harder I would ride, they just wouldn't fail. They would just keep pushing. And
Well, physiologically and the biochemistry at the cellular level, no human being is built to do this. Obviously, nutrition and what you put in and what you put out, there has to be a balance. Now, Greg, your crew chief ain't a rocket scientist.
No.
Lovely guy, Greg. Hello, Greg. Lovely guy. You are a champion. And you had Sean Latouche, who was a cardiologist. Your heart was fine. He had nothing more to do. And then you had this girls, Karina. You had
Priscilla, who was a nurse.
Yeah.
I had a Cairo, Claire, Rebecca, Master,
But none of them were experts in nutrition and dietitian and what sort of you need. So how did you plan that?
So I used a product called Ensure Plus, which is if you're on a feeding tube in a hospital, this is the stuff they squirt down your tube. So that was, I guess my.
But that wasn't a hospital grade. It was you can.
It was
buy
just
it.
you can buy it.
You can
buy it at the chemist warehouse or whatever.
I thought you stole from the hospital.
Yeah.
You put a drip in.
So but it's simple, it's easy, it's controlled, it's food safe, and that was my base nutrition.
And how often would you have that?
Yeah, probably every 1 hour 50.
You have one.
We would have every hour 50. I'd have one, and every third round I would have 2.
Right. Solids.
On top of that, I was making up smoothies, fruit smoothies.
But someone else was you drinking?
Yeah, so they would make these up, and they had egg white in them. Albumin, which is another long story, but I believe that was a major contributing factor to my lack of edema and lack of swelling.
I can understand physiologically it's a osmolality thing, so you've got more in your vascular space. So
so it actually pulls it out.
So now, that's a question: who put the plan together?
Me.
You put the plan together.
I put the plan together.
And they just followed the plan. So you didn't get any professional help?
I didn't get any professional. I did a lot of reading.
Yes.
I did a lot of self-testing.
Right. On small rides around town.
Small rides and such forth, and figuring out what works for my tummy.
Any diarrhea?
Tummy was rock solid.
Rock solid, yeah. That's one of the things when you have all this glucose and carbs and all this stuff going in.
And it was probably, again, it was one of those learnings from 19. I did pretty much try to do all the race on Ensure. Whereas this time around...
How about cramps?
Not one cramp for the entire time. And I didn't take salt. I did not take one salt tablet.
Now, quickly, temperature extremes, as you're going through.
Temperature, we got up into the high 30s. When we got to 40 odd, we went through the desert, which is literally...
Arizona?
That's through California, Arizona, and literally you hit that 6 hours into the ride. You actually drop into the Borrego Springs, and it's just, it can be stifling hot. But it wasn't so bad this year. But live in North Queensland, it's got to be pretty bloody hot for me to say that it's
fair enough. But still, bad. I mean, 10 days of riding and you got heat, and then you got cold when you got to Colorado.
We got to cold. We get to cold, and there were a few times there, particularly on a lot of the descents. I was rugging up, but I was just shivering uncontrollably as I was coming down.
Wow. Because just sweating? It
was just cold.
It's cold.
It was just bloody cold. And again, I was losing body fat, and even now, I'm struggling with cold weather. It's cold. I'm feeling the cold bag.
So Al tells me he lost 5 kilos in 10 days throughout the race, and I suspect some of that is fluid, but some of that will be muscle and fat and stuff.
A lot of it, I think a lot of
Excuse
it
me.
was body fat, and there was one point where
Maybe I should do that, lose my body fat.
It was I think I was in Washington, and I actually had to go to the loo, and obviously this is it was sometime in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the loo, and I have got, there are veins popping out everywhere, and I'm going, oh boy, oh this is getting interesting, and I knew that I was eating into my reserves. And it did. My body fat was just dropping away, which gets me feeling.
So we are at the 45-minute mark. So I'm gonna wrap up because most people's attention spans about 4 to 5 minutes, and we've gone 45 minutes.
Oh, we're gonna kill them.
So we're gonna last couple of questions. You did say that the hardest bit was recovery. When you recovered, you found that quite difficult. Quickly.
The tiredness, and physically you are sore, but it's the tiredness and how much that hurts. They don't put that in the advertising brochure. You know, the race is physically demanding and physically hard, but I tell you what, the recovery is just as bad.
Yeah.
It's just.
How long did it take?
It's been a fortnight now today, and I'm feeling less beaten up, and that's what it feels like. It feels like I've been beaten up, but it's getting better, and I'm napping way less.
So you're just falling asleep and waking up and stuff like that. I guess that I've heard. I had a phone call from one of the RAAM guys. $1 million is on its way.
Oh, yes!
Guys, I hope.
I woke up.
Shit, we all can just woke up. Oh man, imagine that. I mean, the guy deserves. So someone's got a GoFundMe page. Not that Al is doing it for money, and he's one of the happiest souls that I know is this dude. I've known him for 10 years now, and I've done a few. And I'm not in his league, but I've done a few cycle rides and stuff with him, and endurance. And he taught me through a half Ironman.
I did.
He did, so yeah. And since then, I have done nothing of that sort. But having said that, if you feel like you need to, help Al out, please do. It's not going to make or break his life, but it is what it is. It's a token of appreciation. And I suspect if RAAM is watching, fellas, this is a huge capacity, huge missed opportunity. I don't know what it is in America, where you can commercialize, fresh air, and he's a guy that's just gone from one end of your country to the other, and he's got few people at the docks giving him a clap, and he tries to lift the host up. That's about it. That's the excitement level. But I hope that I wanted to know a bit more about the ride, and this given me a bit of insight into what Al had to go through. Man, he's a natural. I don't think many people can just rock up and do what he's just done. But it's amazing. Guy from Townsville. He's from New Zealand originally, but he lives. Would you call yourself an Aussie, I suppose?
Aussie Kiwi, yeah.
Aussie Kiwi. Has 2 jobs. I see him always smiling. Never. You ask Al how you going, he's got a massive smile on his face, gives you a high five, and life goes on. Mind you, he doesn't have a wife, so that's probably good. Sorry, guys. Oops. Anyways, it was great talking to Al, and if you want to help Al out with the GoFundMe page, I'll find the link and I'll put it down in the index area, and I'll get some footage of Al, and I'll try and at the end of this put some footage on for you to enjoy, hopefully. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, Kosh. It's been great.
Thank you, Al.
Green apples! Green apples! Green apples!
How you feeling?
Like a truck.
ran over me. Wasn't happy. Backed up and had another crack. You know, he didn't do a very good job.
Still trucking?
We're still trucking. Not sure where we are. I believe it's in the States somewhere. But today's special is insured. Watch you by the whatever company it is, Abbott's. That's it. And the flavour is strawberry. It's a little bit like steak and chips, but better.
And how are you feeling about the finish?
It's a long way away yet, so I'm not too worried about it. We're just going to keep moving. But my nethers have just been repaired, so we're good.
So we're good to go for the next...
We're good to go for a wee while.
Excellent.
How's my crew doing?
We're all good. We're very good.
We've got a driver in there.
Got a driver
He
in there.
never gets out. He's complaining about, and I feel for him, because his pot gets sore. But he's okay. We've got stuff for that.
Copious amounts of stuff for that, in fact.
All right, I've had my steak and chips. We're done.
Oh, that'd be unbelievable.
Oh, can we cheer a little louder? Come on. After you give him a medal. Now, actually, what's really cool is he gets his plaques. Then we'll take that away.
Not on the stage. Save it till tonight.
Oh, help me out. No, you're not pulling me up. So, Alexandra jumped up in my arms.
I could tell you what was coming. You seem to be the only person surprised by this.
Godsmack. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming down. And yeah, it was a tough few days, but I couldn't have done it without my crew. They were just telling me all about the support that we were getting from home, and I actually couldn't believe in it, and it really hasn't sunk in until I actually walked through that door there, and it's like, bloody hell. But thank you so much, everybody. Oh my God.
And just one other thing I really need to mention is that we were doing this for a cause, and it was selectability, and we'll work out over the next little while just how much money was was donated, and it's for a great cause, a great local endeavour, and we'll certainly be putting whatever money was raised to that. So
Can we still donate?
yes, no, throw it in my pocket. Just onto the Team Jefferson webpage, and there'll be some details on there as to where people can donate. So as I said, we've had those donations rolling in for a while, and really looking forward to be able to tally that up and work out what we've done for the local community. So once again, on behalf of everyone, thank you very much for that side of it as well.